In 1843, American author Edgar Allan Poe published a short story with the title Goldbug. The tale, set in South Carolina, involved the discovery of a secret encoded message, or cipher, which claimed to lead to the hidden treasure of 17th century pirate Captain William Kidd. While Poe himself did not invent the style of cryptogram used in the tale, a simple substitution cipher first used by Roman Emperor Julius Caesar, the author's fascination with secret messages helped popularize cryptography in American culture, influencing 19th century news and fiction alike, including, but not limited to, Robert Louis Stevenson's classic novel, Treasure Island. But while Poe's tale of hidden treasure was one of pure fiction, in 1885, a Lynchburg, Virginia book publisher offered one that it claimed was in fact real, releasing a small pamphlet of encrypted messages stating that once decoded would lead an individual to the whereabouts of a tantalizingly large treasure buried somewhere in Bedford County that included thousands of pounds of gold, silver, and jewels. But now, after more than a century, the location of this treasure is yet to be discovered. And even today, 2 of the 3 cryptograms included have yet to be solved. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Southern Gothic. In 1885, the Lynchburg, Virginian Book and Job Print Office published a small pamphlet with the somewhat long-winded title, The Beale Papers, containing authentic statements regarding the treasure buried in 1819 and 1821 near Buford's in Bedford County, Virginia, and which has never been recovered. For the hefty fee of 50 cents, one could purchase this 23-page document, which not only told the story of a large hidden treasure of gold, silver, and jewels, but also contained 3 secret ciphers that would allegedly lead an individual to the treasure's whereabouts. According to the Beale Papers, as the pamphlet was known, the ciphers originated with a man named Thomas J Beale. Beale arrived in Lynchburg, Virginia, sometime in January of 1820, checking into the Washington Hotel. Robert Morris, the innkeeper of the establishment, described the man as, quote, about 6 feet in height, with jet black eyes and hair of the same color, worn longer than was the style at that time. His form was symmetrical and gave evidence of unusual strength and activity, but his distinguishing feature was a dark and swarthy complexion. Beale supposedly came and went from the Washington Hotel several times in these first months of 1820, and his social nature and friendly attitude made him a popular guest. But after March of that year, Beale would not be seen in Lynchburg again until January 1822, when he once again came and went for several months. But this time, prior to his final departure in March, Beale entrusted Robert Morris with an iron box, which he said contained, quote, papers of value and importance that either he or one of his men would one day return to collect, adding that Morris should only open the box himself if it was still in his possession after 10 years had passed. But after Thomas J. Beale left Lynchburg, he was never seen in the area again, and Morris's only contact with the mysterious stranger came in the form of a letter sent from St. Louis, promising that a friend of Beals would be mailing the innkeeper all of the information necessary to solve the ciphers. Unfortunately, no contact was ever made. "10 years passed, and still the ciphers remained in the care of Morris, who chose not to open the box until 1845, 23 years after receiving it. And inside, Morris found several receipts, 3 papers covered entirely with numbers, and a note from Beale that told the story of a treasure that he himself had hidden. In early April 1817, Thomas Beale and a group of 29 men departed on an adventure across America. The men traveled through the country's western plains, arriving in Santa Fe before deciding to head north in search of buffalo. But instead of buffalo, the explorers found something even more attractive. While camped in a small ravine, the group came across a cleft in the rocks, leading to a natural opening where they discovered, quote, something that had the appearance of gold. So the men went to work, and over the following 18 months, they removed thousands of pounds of precious metals from the mine. Then, in an attempt to keep this newfound treasure safe, the men charged Beale with transporting the goods back to Virginia to be safely hidden until their work was complete and they could each claim their share of the prize. But the journey back was long and the treasure weighty. So to ease his travels, upon reaching St. Louis, Beale exchanged some of the gold and silver for jewels, allowing him to secretly make multiple trips to Bedford County, where he successfully hid this cash. Then, as a safeguard to ensure the men out west would receive their fair share of the treasure, even if something were to happen to him, Beale encrypted 3 messages, which he secured in an iron box. The package that he had entrusted with Robert Morris. When Robert Morris finally opened the box in 1845, he found Beale's ciphers, but to him, they seemed to be nothing more than pages full of arbitrary numbers, labeled and identified as 1, 2, and 3. According to the note included in the box, Cipher 1 identified the location of the hidden treasure. Cipher 2 gave a description of what the treasure included. And Cipher 3 was a list of the men and their heirs who the treasure belonged to. So Morris spent the next 2 decades attempting to solve the 3 ciphers. But his attempts proved unsuccessful. So prior to his death in 1863, Morris left the iron box and all of its contents to an unidentified friend. Fortunately, this still unknown friend succeeded where Morris had failed. Using a published version of the United States Declaration of Independence as a key, the man managed to decrypt Beale's second cipher, a modified version of a book cipher, where the number on the note represented the location of a word in the key. For example, if the number in the cipher is 3, you would select the third word of the key. The resulting message read, "I've deposited in the county of Bedford, about 4 miles from Beaufort's, in an excavation or vault, 6 feet below the surface of the ground, the following articles, belonging jointly to the parties whose names are given in number 3. The first deposit consisted of 1,014 pounds of gold and 3,812 pounds of silver, deposited November 1819. The second was made December 1821 and consisted of 1,907 pounds of gold and 1,288 of silver. Also jewels obtained in St. Louis and exchanged to save transportation and valued at $13,000. The above is securely packed in iron pots with iron covers. The vault is roughly lined with stone, and the vessels rest on solid stone and are covered with others. Paper number 1 describes the exact locality of the vault, so that no difficulty will be had in finding it." Unfortunately, Beale's cipher describing that exact location could not be solved, so the unknown man passed the encryptions along to yet another friend, James B. Ward. And it was Ward who published them in 1885 as the infamous pamphlet titled The Beale Papers. Over a century has passed since the publication of the Beale Papers, yet even today, in the modern age of supercomputers, the cipher is yet to have been successfully decrypted. However, upon examination of the legitimacy and authenticity of the document, it is not so surprising that the mystery remains. Modern researchers, analysts, and code breakers have been using computers in an attempt to decrypt the Beale ciphers since the 1960s. But in spite of their inability to decrypt the code, what they have instead uncovered is that the ciphers do not appear to have the characteristics typically associated with properly encoded encryptions. The second cipher, the only one to have been solved, has a handful of errors in it when examining it next to the Declaration of Independence, the key used to break the cipher. While it is certainly possible that an alternate version of the document was used to encode the message, or even that it was merely done poorly, it is more likely that the Beale ciphers are merely a hoax. Proponents of this theory claim that the errors in the encryption point to the fact that the cipher was never really encrypted in the first place. Instead, it may have been created to seem as though it had been successfully solved in order to achieve publicity. Publicity that would help sell the pamphlet and earn the publishers a nice profit. After all, in 1885, 50 cents was a high price for a 23-page pamphlet, which adjusted for inflation would cost $14.23 today. Numerous other factors also cast doubt on the document's legitimacy. The majority of the pamphlet's content was the background information for the cipher's origins, which the publisher claimed to have been written by Robert Morris's unidentified friend, of whom the pamphlet claimed chose to hide his identity in an effort to avoid being contacted by interested persons and treasure hunters. Yet scholarly analysis of this writing, along with the supposed letters of Thomas Beale, suggests that enough linguistic similarities exist between the pamphlet's contents that they were likely all written by one man. In addition, The use of words such as stampede and improvise, which were written in the Beale letters, had not yet been recorded as being a part of English vernacular until the 1820s and 1830s, respectively. So how could Beale have known the words to use them in the letters? Thus, it is likely that whoever penned the 1885 pamphlet used these words unaware that 50 years prior, people would not have understood their meaning. With this in mind, it is likely that the author of the Beale Papers was their publisher, James B. Ward. Historically, there's very little information on Ward. He's almost untraceable in the historical record of Virginia, with the single exception being a man of the same name who owned the home in which Sarah Morris, the wife of innkeeper Robert Morris, died in 1863. That same year, this James Ward is also recorded as becoming a master mason in the Freemasons. As for the mysterious Thomas J. Beale, there is much doubt as to whether there ever actually was a man by this name residing in Virginia, as records identifying someone by his name in the area are almost untraceable. The most intriguing option is found in the 1820 census, which recorded a Captain Thomas Beale, who was originally from Botetourt County, Virginia, not far from Bedford County, where the treasure is believed to have been buried. Another interesting link with this Captain Beale is that he served in the 1815 Battle of New Orleans. Interestingly, there's a connection between the vernacular of New Orleans during this time and the language used in the Beale letters. While the words stampede and improvise were not yet used in English, they were of Spanish and French origin, respectively, and had both been recorded and known to have been used in New Orleans during French and Spanish rule. It could therefore be entirely possible that someone writing in English in the 1820s could reasonably have been exposed to include words that were not yet commonplace in the rest of the country. One other notable record of a Thomas Beale, although with an alternate spelling, can be found in the 1820 customer lists of the St. Louis Post Department. According to the Beale Papers, the gentleman passed through St. Louis several times as he traveled to and from Virginia, and is said to have traded gold for jewels there, as well as sent Robert Morris his final correspondence in 1822. The disputable authenticity of the Beale Ciphers has not deterred enthusiastic treasure hunters and cryptanalysts from trying their hand at decoding the remaining ciphers. A variety of historical works have been attempted to be used as their key, from the United States Constitution to the Magna Carta and even the Bible. But the mystery remains, and so far, in spite of 2 centuries of searching for Thomas Beale's elusive treasure, no sign of a grand stash of gold, silver, and jewels have ever been found. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you've been listening to Southern Gothic.
Southern Gothic is an independently released podcast, written and produced by Brandon and Brianne Schexnayder. For special access to members-only content, including access to the series Southern Gothic, The Monsters, as well as updates and links to our social media, visit southerngothicmedia.com today.
Lucky Little Shacks.